current legislation that provision is made to save the mother's life over that of the baby in circumstances where it's deemed necessary. Sometimes a baby will die as an unintended result of the treatment that is given to the mother to save her life. For example, in the case of cardiac arrest, difficult decisions have to be made. People often quote the case of Savita Halappanavar in discussions about the Eighth Amendment, but the coroner's inquest showed that her death was not related to the Eighth Amendment. The extensive inquiry conducted by HIQA, the Health Information and Quality Authority, in October 2013 showed that her death was a result of sepsis due to an infection which was caused by a virulent antibiotic-resistant strain of E. coli, and a series of systems failures on top of that, which was very sad.
We're really privileged to live in a society where all humans are valued equally, whether we're young or old, whether we're male or female, whether we're from Ireland or from abroad. In line with international human rights, we see that reflected in our laws here in Ireland. And so we recognise that each person is special and each person should be given equal value and worth and dignity. Now, I know that we failed in this at times, but we know that discrimination is wrong, and it's wrong for one group of people to see themselves as more valuable than another group. Valuing humans equally isn't something that's just self-evident, but it's explained in the Bible. So the God who is the creator and giver of all life has made each of us in his image. The Bible puts it like this: in the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. And that is why humans are uniquely and equally valuable. And that value doesn't change. It doesn't change with age, how old you are, or how healthy you are, or where you live, or maybe dependency as you become older later in life, or life expectancy.
So the Bible says that life began at conception. And now we know that science and the Bible agree with one another. It's wonderful to see how they go hand in hand. And what we have from conception, we have genetically all the makeup of another human being. Well, the Bible says it beautifully in Psalm 139, where it says, David writes, "You knit me together in my mother's womb. You created my inmost being," because it goes on to say, "I am fearfully and wonderfully made." So he is really saying that a person existed in the womb. You knit me together in the womb. Just because of location does not disqualify you from being a person. Traveling just those 6 or 7 inches of a birth canal does not magically transform you from a non-person to a person.
When I was 18, I was preparing for my mocks, my leaving cert, supposed to be planning my future, planning the possibility of a baby thrown in there on top of dealing with my rape. It was a tough situation, but abortion, I never even considered it, because I just thought, if I am pregnant, this baby, it's not their fault who their dad is or how they came into this world, because they are a life after all. So what women need in a time of trauma, in a time of crisis like that, is compassion. They need care, they need support, and they need to know that ultimately there's hope, and it's not the end of their life, because that's how it feels at the time. You just feel empty and numb, and there's no way out. So for hope to come along is a big thing. Most women who get pregnant through rape, they don't abort their babies. Adoption is always an option for those women, but we can't just get rid of a problem to deal with another problem. Rape is a trauma, but we don't need trauma on top of that trauma.
Everyone likes to be free to make choices for their own lives, so the pro-choice term is seen as a positive one. However, there are some choices that impact other people's lives. Most reasonable people would agree that there are some choices that should never be available. For example, to enslave another person, or to abuse a child, or human trafficking. So I feel that the pro-choice slogan is a misleading use of language. Unborn babies are completely unique and separate human lives from the moment of conception. Every child, no matter how dependent on his or her mother, deserves our protection at every stage of life. Advancing science clearly testifies to the humanity of the unborn. Abortion is not progressive, so the 8th Amendment represents a forward-thinking approach to human rights for all.
A really important thing to think through is, how does abortion impact women? Because often a lot of people have gone through this trauma and we mightn't even know about it, but yet it's really important that we show people the facts. Abortion impacts hugely on mental health. It impacts hugely on the suicide rates of women. The European Journal reported that women who have gone through an abortion are 6 times more likely to commit suicide than those who have kept their baby. In terms of mental health, the British Journal of Psychiatry showed us that women who have had abortions are 30% more likely to have mental health problems further down the line. It's important that this is spoken about and that we offer support to women who have gone through an abortion, but also offer solutions for women who find themselves in a crisis pregnancy. There's an amazing website called womenhurt.ie, which offers abortion support for people who have gone through that trauma and are finding it extremely difficult.
It's incredibly difficult, and the couple and their extended family will need support. But as heartbreaking as it is, these children, until such time as nature takes its course, are alive and kicking, and they're created in God's image and have the right to life the same as any other child. Every life should be celebrated and is valuable. Many countries offer terminations for conditions such as Down syndrome and other disabilities. In the UK, babies diagnosed with Down syndrome in utero are aborted. That figure is 90%. In Denmark, it's as high as 98%. We don't have to follow suit. In Ireland, a life is a life.
First thing I would say is that there's grace for that, and whether it is you're carrying those feelings of guilt for yourself personally, or have been burdened by that personally, or whether it is you've been associated with someone who's experienced that and is feeling the burden of it, is that there's grace for that. The gospel, the good news of Jesus, speaks into that experience, and it might be something that you've been trying to ignore, trying to just put behind you, but it keeps coming back to you, and there are reminders through your experience that keep bringing it back to you. We all have made mistakes. We all have done wrong. We all need restoration and forgiveness and hope. We can have forgiveness from whatever it is we have experienced in our past, and abortion is no different in that regard. It's something that grace is sufficient for. The good news of the gospel is that Jesus came to pay the penalty for our sin. So in his life, in his death, in his resurrection, we have the opportunity to experience liberty again, forgiveness again, hope.
In Ireland, we're not asking for restricted abortion for rape and incest in those circumstances. They are asking for unrestricted abortion up until 12 weeks. In England, the British Department of Health say that 1 in 5 pregnancies end in abortion. How many will end here when over there it is restricted and here it's unrestricted?
The Bible explains that they are given equal dignity by God as you and me, and so should be equally worthy of the right to life.